not, uh, go back and tell the other dogs that, okay, don't go here, this is not safe, you'll be caught. So we are training and working with the Mayhew Animal Trust. A colleague of mine, Joy Lee, who works in the India office, she's from the London office, is going to be in Kabul for 3 weeks. Right now, 10 workers from the Kabul municipality are on their way to one of our Indian projects to learn animal behavior, dog handling, dog catching, and rabies delivery programs.
You do only vaccination? Or
For Kabul, we are only doing vaccination right now because they want to be rabies free. You see, disease free and when you want to be dog population managed and when you want to have disease free, this, let's say if you have 100 million to start with 100 million, you could vaccinate, you could vaccinate 100 million dogs. But you can only spay and neuter, let's say if a dog costs you 30, you can only vaccinate about 300,000 dogs. Spay and neuter, yeah. So dog population management, although is extremely successful, but it requires a lot of resources, it requires a lot of expertise, and it requires a longer time duration. I could vaccinate 200,000 dogs in a city in 2 months and go away. I don't need to have my people there. I can come to a place, I can gather 200 people, I can vaccinate 200,000 dogs and go away. In 10 months, these people can do something else. Spay and neuter, I need my 200 people to work every day, morning to evening, for the next 5 to 10 years to be able to bring the situation under control. So there is a combination. Israel right now does not have rabies in humans, as far as I know. I've read your rabies statistics. They are limited to livestock, dogs, a few things here and there. So you don't have an outbreak of rabies like in India. We keep on having outbreaks of rabies. In Sri Lanka, we have outbreak of rabies. In many of these countries I speak about, there are outbreak of rabies. So that's not a problem. The problem out here is, as I understand, and I'm open to discussion, is why are we killing healthy animals when there is an alternative, right? Yeah. And we should be killing the animals for which there is no alternative, but why are we applying the same rule of killing everything when there is a solution, there is an alternative?
But you have to also say that the rabies vaccination, for how long it is. So let's say where you do this place, only vaccination, you have to do it again a year later, or what to do?
Okay. Okay, so here I have a little. So I'll talk about what we do with rabies, okay, and how it usually functions. Even if these dogs had to be vaccinated every 6 months, if that is what is needed, why do we worry about, I mean, what is the reason why we are not open to vaccinating them every 6 months if that is your solution? Why is it a problem that you have to vaccinate them every year, is my question to you.
In Israel, it's quite different. The problem with rabies is mostly coming from the northern border, mostly from what used to be Syria, or is still Syria and Lebanon. There you have the animals coming through the borders, and then you don't have a stable population like in an island, like in Sri Lanka, or
Right.
in other place.
Right.
It's not just rabies we're dealing with. There are other diseases that are penetrating the border, and therefore you cannot really see it as maintaining a situation and managing it.
Okay. Have you heard of this term called herd immunity? This is the basic underlying factor of rabies control, not eradication. So what happens is, let's say this is your northern border, and let's say this is Israel, this is where the dogs are coming in from, proliferating. You don't have a stable island-like situation where you can control incoming and outflow of dogs. What you do is, what is in your control, let's say this is in your control, what you need to do, minimum, is if you vaccinate, revaccinate, revaccinate the dogs up to 40% within your territory, you will create what is called herd immunity. What that means is, if a rabid dog comes in here, bites one of your dogs, the immunity that you've created among the herd will not allow rabies to become an epidemic. It will stay.
Ignoring another particular problem with the Palestinian Authority in areas which are not managed by any government. With the Palestinian Authority, as far as I know, the weekly budget that the veterinarians get there is sufficient for fuel for one day if lucky.
Right.
So basically you have like a black hole vacuum issue in the middle of the territory.
Right.
Whereas also you cannot control the garbage disposal, waste management.
Right.
You have a third world country in an island surrounded with some interaction from Syria. It's,
Right.
The point of getting herd immunity is good in theory once it clashes with reality and politics and cost and the problems that we have with agreeing with the PLO on issues, then you have a bigger problem.
Okay, but that, sorry, I just answered to that, but that is dictating the problem in that area, right? That is not
All over the country.
all over the country. So that is a very, very, it is a very valid point, and multiple solutions. I mean, we deal with the same in Bhutan. You know, the only place in Bhutan where there is rabies is where they share the borders with India. Yeah. But because they are friendly countries, we are able to go into India and make another 15 kilometers area as, we create, we completely sanitize it. So the dogs within 15 kilometers bordering Bhutan in India are also vaccinated, and we create that kind of immunity, which might not be possible here. But that does not mean that we can't look at other solutions to try and tackle this problem. Yes.
Raoul, by the way, sorry to stop you. Sivan was the veterinarian of the army when we did the pilot in the Jordan Valley that I told you about.
Okay.
And that's when I told you that the dogs that were in the army bases in that area came to Israel as tourists to the army bases because there was a lot of food.
Right.
And she knows the areas very well. She took us, she knew every dog, you know, she took us to all these places, and she was in touch with the soldiers, and they knew exactly how big is the pack and where is the pack.
Right.
Just you will know.
Yes.
I just wanted to mention something.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned, rabies in Israel is only the result of the work of the veterinary ministry. Okay, we in the north, we have rabies. We know that rabies is with house animals, not wild animals, because Israel's been vaccinating along the border. So the detected rabies in the last 8 years has been with house animals. It began in Sfat when a house dog came up with rabies, and they had a few other dogs in Sfat, and slowly it moves south. They've known this for 8 years. They've done nothing. The way to treat rabies is only to vaccinate. More than 50% of dogs in Israel are not even vaccinated. House animals, I'm not talking wild animals, okay? We know how to solve the problem of wild animals, and we're doing it. It's house animals, okay? This is the fault of the veterinary ministry as far as I'm concerned.
There you go.
Yeah. It's true.
There you go. You found your problem. And
Listen, if I don't vaccinate my dog, I get a letter immediately from this guy who's
You
sitting
know, when
here.
I have 30 dogs I want to vaccinate,
Yeah,
I
but-
want the vaccines, they won't give them to me. They
I'm
won't
not
give me
sure
a
that I want to
license.
disturb you, but I'm not able to sit without, because now I know that you came here for the spay release of dogs. Now we are talking about problem. Now, after you started to deal here,
Right.
the main problem is the rabies.
Right.
In these countries, that people die of rabies.
Right.
So, I didn't decide yet if it's the best way to deal with, but I think that the main reason has to be the rabies, and we have to check all the ways how to prevent people dying of rabies, because in Israel the last case was, I think, 92, and also it was really because of misunderstanding.
Right.
And now we have, why instead of doing spending money for spaying and release, why you're not thinking about just a best system just to vaccinate and revaccinate all this population?
Right.
So first of all, stop the rabies
Right.
in these countries, because it's a big problem. People
Right.
are dying.
Right.
So why you are not using the system that we are doing here? I don't know if this woman is right about the numbers that she's giving, but
Right.
the point is, I told you that in Tel Aviv we have jackals.
Right.
So once a year, we are putting all of them. We are not catching them.
Yeah, oral
We are
vaccines,
putting Oral vaccines.
Yeah.
So why you are not using oral vaccine? It's, let's say, $1 for
Dose.
one dose.
Right.
Why instead of using millions here, not to take a big amount with the airplane, with all means to try to vaccinate first before doing this?
Right.
Because the things, if I understand good, the main thing is the rabies.
Sure. So, oral rabies works beautifully for wild populations, but you cannot use oral bait vaccine where there are human habitations because it has live rabies virus. So you have to monitor it very close that children don't touch it if there's an open wound, and if it comes in contact with humans without the right amount of protection, it can actually cause a lot of damage, which is why oral vaccine is not recommended for community dogs, which is why we did not do it in India as well.
I agree, absolutely.
Yeah, so for wild populations, it's great, and I completely agree. If you want to be rabies free first, it's the cheapest, easiest way. We have developed something we call the MDV app. It's called the Mass Dog Vaccination app. It is the most advanced technology that will give you an exact idea of what you need to do, how you need to do, when have you accomplished your immunity standards, and we have developed it over the last year and a half, and we are using it everywhere. Yes.
From what I know, I've been in, from my personal experience, okay, I was also dealing with epidemiology in humans when I was in my former role as the Central Command veterinarian, as well as dealing with the dogs, with the PLO and this thing. Rabies is a non-issue. The issue is more of the population density and waste.
Right.
According, also, let's say, even if I'm looking outside of my specific relationship with the Central Command, even if you look at a city like Raat, what you're talking about is the problem that a lot of the slaughtering is still traditional slaughtering, then it's where you're going to throw it outside, and what you have a ring of dogs right, surrounding your
Yeah.
city. And rabies is not the issue. If you want to tackle it, okay, rabies is fine. It's catchy. Everybody's afraid of it. Very nice. It's not the problem.
Right.
We tested and we sent, and also in the data from the last 2 years, I am not familiar. The data that I know is not correlating to what was stated here before.
Okay.
Waste management will be a more beneficial way to control everything.
Fantastic. Okay.
Raat, by the way, is what we told you in the south of the country.
It's a
And
Bedouin
it's a Bedouin city.
Okay? Yes.
I would love to add a short sentence. Rabies became a code word in Israel. You say rabies, everyone has to stand still, and it allows the vets in Israel to do everything.
I agree.
Whatever they want, and however they want.
You have my support in that, yeah. It's used everywhere in the world, not only in Israel.
They didn't, okay, they learned this, they copied this system, doesn't help them.
But we will give you tools to ask the right questions. And if they don't answer the right questions, then they will not be allowed to do everything. Rabies, fine, where, show us, how many, when, outbreak, source. Did you do ring vaccinations? You had so many things that you could have done rather than killing. Why didn't you do that? So when it comes to rabies, I'll come to you. You know, I give this example and it fits perfectly well. You guys have heard of a disease called polio? Yeah? You have it. You know, India became polio free 2 years ago.
We were free.
You were free? Okay, so how did we eradicate polio?
Yeah, don't exaggerate.
Israel is polio free, no?
בדיוק, אין לנו
What
פוליו.
happened,
גם והאחרון לא.
According to the data, what happened was they found a reservoir in the sewage in 2013, and then it raised the question with the polio. Basically, Israel is free, but because of the scientific data, then it was actually epidemiology. It was very interesting.
Okay, but what happens in polio is when the child is born, we give it drops, right?
Yeah.
Why don't we kill the child? To kill polio, we should kill the children, right? You always have to eradicate the disease, not the vector that carries it. Same logic applies to the dogs. Everywhere in the world, you know, there's this fantastic guy who works with OIE. What's his name? Who's in Bangladesh right now? Dr. Eric Bram. He was in Indonesia. He spearheaded the rabies vaccination. You should hear him talk. I have his presentation. I'll need permission to show it. But what he keeps on saying everywhere is, you have to vaccinate the dogs to kill rabies. The moment you start killing dogs to kill rabies, you are growing rabies. You had to vaccinate children to kill polio. You did not have to kill children to kill polio. Polio would have always been alive. It's absolute, and it's the easiest, cheapest, most efficient way of controlling. It's the disease that doesn't deserve to kill any of us. It's the easiest disease to get rid of. And when you say that, how is it a problem to revaccinate a dog next year and next year and next year and it puppies next year and next year? What happens is, if a country, I'll give you an example of WHO standards, if a country reports 0 rabies outbreak for 5 years, in humans and in livestock and in dogs, it's given the status of rabies free, which means it has achieved the herd immunity for that country. So your work on eradicating a disease in dogs takes you between 5 to 8 years. For polio, it has taken India 40 years. When you look at HIV, you look at other diseases, the amount of money, India took billions of dollars to eradicate polio. How many resources is Israel willing to put behind eradicating rabies? I can guarantee if you put 20 million, you'll be rabies free. But nobody gives money because nobody wants to take this disease head on. And you're way behind because Sri Lanka is determined to be the first country in South Asia to be rabies free by 2020. I have sat and I have seen the action plan. They have given the money and the resources. They want to do everything right. Philippines was the recipient of Bill and Melinda Gates, the only country apart from a pilot location in Africa. They had Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation grant to become rabies free. Things didn't go right, but they're coming back on track. If you don't dedicate resources, you can't call the program a failure. I was talking to many people yesterday who I don't remember their names, and they said that the cat spay neuter program, you know, is maybe a success, maybe a failure. And I asked them that, have you done enough? And they said, no, we just do the amount of money that is available. That's not how population management works. It has to be as per a plan. If India gave only 20,000 doses of polio every year, whereas it was required to give 200,000 doses of polio every year, we wouldn't have been polio free. Okay, there were more questions. Yes, sir.
Not a question. Obviously, you see it in every country you go. There's a lot of streams here in Israel. Everybody pulls in their own direction. We have municipal debates, and we have politics and politicians. We have the kind of confused because I'm an animal welfare kind of work. I think the purpose you hear does not stop Israel from killing animals. And what I see in Israel a lot, even in the animal welfare, in the rabies, in the politicians, is everybody's trying to like, I'm going to throw some money at that for a year and then we'll be fine because I throw some money by so everybody's going to be happy. But by street cats or by rabies, Israel deposits a lot more than 20 million in rabies vaccines yearly or decadally or whatever it is. It's still, I think it's manageable, but I think what's for your work here is just to put all these things together because I think the money is there, obviously, because
Right.
there's a lot of money Israel put in every direction.
Right.
I just don't think it's all moving in the same direction, right? Because a lot of spay and neuter, a lot of campaigning spay and neuter. Politicians try. We have a problem here with religion, as you see it probably
Right.
in your countries.
Yeah.
As she said before, and I think that's the main problem here.
Right.
And I wish all these people who are sitting here one day will come together and not blaming each other of that's problem or his fault or this fault, and just maybe you, as an outsider, be able to do that. And I think that's your main job here, and to bring all of us together and working in the same direction and not taking this part. Okay, let's talk about rabies. Okay, let's talk about the Palestinian Authority, because that's not the issue here.
Right.
I think we're managing everything pretty well, and we could do it a lot better job if we actually do it properly.
So what you mean to say is we need a plan.
We don't need a plan. We need some money to manage it, because it's supposed to be the Minister of Agriculture. Okay, it's responsible for everything,
Right.
but it doesn't. Okay, because most of the animal welfare doesn't get money from the government.
Right.
So we do it by our own. Municipal vets try to go their way because they need more budgets for their stuff.
Right.
And you can bring up the plan.
Right.
Who's going to manage it? Who's going to be responsible for the plan to take place? Because I'm sure you're very, very good at what you do, and you're going to bring us a great plan.
Right.
We need somebody to say, okay, I'm the managing of all this, and I decide that's what we do.
Right.
I think we're missing this kind of person here.
Well, the people are amongst you, but what my answer to you is what we do in these situations is we offer our expertise to set up a pilot project. This pilot project is usually, it has all the components exactly based on the plan that have to be associated with it to create a model that should be able to prove its efficacy as we put it in the paper. So let's say that we are able to negotiate a pilot project. Okay, if someone likes us in the government, Mr. Sehgal, what you say is, okay, we want you to try this, send us a proposal. And this is the area, whether it's around the PLO or somewhere else, and we send a proposal, okay, this aspect is going to cost this much, this will cost this much, this will cost this much, the whole project is going to cost X, the amount of time we need is Y, the amount of support and logistics we need is Z, and it's going to take 1 year. And then we start this, and over a year, when we are able to present what we are doing and they are able to see what we are doing, is when this pilot project can be replicated across locally because we've created capacity. So an answer to that is that we would not just come, talk and go away. If an opportunity presents itself, we are willing to put into action what we talk, but we don't have enough people to leave behind to do the job for you. So we help you with planning it, executing it, and we help monitoring it and doing course corrections, which is what we do in every country. We don't have HSI people wearing HSI t-shirts, catching the dogs and sterilizing the dogs, but these people have been taught by us how to catch them, how to sterilize them, which area to go, how to work on the maps, etc., etc. But I understand what you're saying and is right. Yes, ma'am.
There are two major issues that I've seen that are issues when